Hey, Jimmy. Did you see everything from the PlayStation Showcase yesterday?
Oh, I did, Digon. They really dropped the hammer on Microsoft. It's gonna be really interesting to see how the fans respond to the price, release date, and all the other...
Sony, give me Final Fantasy now! And also a PlayStation 5, please. Welcome to The Download, the news show for anyone who likes to shout about their opinions via caps lock over there. We can see what you're saying, Manatee. What's gotten into you this morning? Why are you being so mean?
That's really mean. This incredulous person here at the meanness is Emma Fife. I'm Daniel Diagon Gonzalez, and the fellow to my right is Jimmy Wong. All three of us love to hear from you, so please hit us up in chat or on Discord.
Plus, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Twitch at WatchVENN. And later on the show, we're going to be joined by Eric Lempel, Head of Worldwide Marketing and Consumer Experience at PlayStation, to tell us how 2020 affected the production and the promotion of the PS5. But first, we got to give our takes on everything PS5. So let's kick things off with the lowdown. We finally have a price point and release date for the PlayStation 5. On Wednesday, Sony unveiled the final details of their upcoming console, which, by the way, is dropping on November 12th, just 2 days after Microsoft plans to launch the Xbox Series X and S. Pre-orders are somewhat available right now. And just like its Xbox counterparts, the PlayStation 5 will have two models, a slightly more expensive version with a disc drive for $499 and a cheaper one without for $399, which means I'm hearing that, yes, that's right, my prediction on the price of the best launch of the best console this year, the PS5, was correct. Take a look at this chart here while I take a victory lap.
Oh,
That's me! I was right! The PS5 rocks! Suck it, Xbox! Just kidding. Digon, close, but too far. Emma, that's not even a real number. What's going on?
Listen.
Can we speak now, please?
No. Yes, yeah, go for it, yeah. What do you guys think about Sony's big price reveal?
I mean, listen, if they wanted to sell PS5s, I mean, mission accomplished,
yes,
you know?
100%. I'm so stoked about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to see this trend with console hardware becoming more and more affordable, weirdly, as the years go on.
Yeah.
You'd think with inflation, certainly, this would be a lot more than it is, considering, I don't know, wasn't the PS4 around this range or more than this when it launched?
Yeah, so it was around this range, and it was launched, several years ago, a console generation ago.
Right.
But I think the smart plan here is, and the reason why I went so low on my price was, get it in the households.
Yeah.
Once it's in the households, then you buy games, you buy peripherals. It's about really growing that fandom. And if it's in the household and you have affinity to it, then people will feel like they're no longer spending money, but supporting something that has supported them. And that's, I think, a very, very smart play here by both consoles, but more so by PlayStation, because again, we were hearing it's gonna be in the 600s, it's gonna be in the 700s.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I genuinely thought, because we've had so many conversations on here about the fact that it seems like Microsoft is more interested in selling Games Pass than Xbox per se. So I thought, as far as Sony went, that they could charge whatever they wanted for the PlayStation 5 and people were gonna buy it, because to me, throughout all of this, it was really the standout in terms of what it offered specifically in terms of value as a console, having exclusives, etc.
Yeah.
And I mean, after this event and so many of the things that were showcased during it, plus that price point, like, dang, Sony!
Yeah.
Dang!
To me, PlayStation feels like a console.
Yeah.
Xbox still feels like a slightly less powerful PC in a nice-looking box.
Yes.
And to me, I think Sony's always had that over Xbox in the same way that Nintendo has that too, which is like they are built to have games played on them, to have
Yes.
exclusives for them, to have titles developed for them specifically. And I've owned many Xboxes in my life, but the only console that I will probably still keep buying is a PlayStation as they update it.
Right, and to be fair, right? To be fair, Sony hasn't made a lot of missteps, but I guess you could call it a misstep. It's also the craze about getting your hands on one. They had the pre-order thing that kind of came up, right?
Ordering anything during COVID just seems like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Just because production's down. There's so many things affecting the world right now.
Right,
Yeah.
so Walmart put out their pre-order link early, and then it was kind of like a little, are they pre-ordering now? It's sold out.
Dagon, doesn't the pre-order fiasco just keep PlayStation 5 in the conversation?
It gets people like us talking about it. Walmart accidentally did that?
I don't know. And then Target totally did the same thing, and then Amazon
But the
suddenly had a link.
buzz definitely there, and it feels like another home run in a series of fantastic proverbial ball games here for PlayStation.
And it was really interesting, too, to see Xbox follow up to this with the tweet saying, hey, we promise we're going to let you know when our pre-orders launch. For real, wink.
At the end of the day, none of that matters. I think what ultimately matters is just what is the better console. I think the console war was won/ended a generation ago with the PS4. To me, Xbox has shown it's going a trajectory that is more towards sort of the PC market / like the games you get here, you can get anywhere. And PlayStation is all about the experiences of the gaming on that system.
Right, and they have two ways for you to experience this at home. We have the Megaphone poll up for you right now, the standard or the digital. Seems like most people still want to get their hands on the physical copy of the standard, the $4.99 version rather than $3.99
I
version.
have kind of waffled on this because I don't have any interest in owning discs. I don't like owning stuff. I'm not really a collector per se.
We got it. Yeah.
But you will hold on to every Phoenix Down you collect in Final Fantasy
Correct.
to the last moment,
That's no.
right?
I am a hoarder when I play RPGs. Like you should see my inventory boxes in Witcher 3. It's kind of out of control. There's probably some stuff I should sell in there. But the fact of the matter is, once you take away the option of having a disc, if we are truly going to go all the way into the everything is digital market, which again, I am for. I like to save space. I'm cool with all my 2 terabyte external hard drives, which technically are taking up space as well. But the thing is you're killing the used game market. And on top of that, it's you now don't have the ability to let a friend borrow a game. There's some work to be done, I think, to preserve some of what's really good, I think, about discs.
Well, speaking of games, none of this pricing stuff even remotely matters if Sony doesn't deliver said games.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the showcase that happened earlier gave us a good idea about what games will be coming to the PlayStation 5 the next year or so. Emma, let's start with the obvious. What was the biggest announcement of the day for you? And I think we all can take a little guess here.
Can you?
Is it fantastical?
It is. It's fantastical and fine night. It's Final Fantasy 16, of course. Whoa, not expecting this. I had resigned myself to the fact that Square was not going to have anything to show at this showcase, and oh boy, I was
great.
very, very wrong. Yeah, so this game is directed by the same guy who directed Final Fantasy 14, Naoki Yoshida. So clearly it's got a very Final Fantasy 14 kind of vibe about it. I'm all about let's get back to our roots with Final Fantasy. When they're we got crystals, we got, monsters that you recognize, we got dragoons and those classic kind of classes.
Yeah.
Also, there's a scene in the trailer where a kid straight up has someone get murdered in front of him and a bunch of blood gets on his face. And I'm I am for this overt violence in my Final Fantasy. I can't wait. I'm already so invested.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan of the PlayStation Plus collection. There is a lot to offer in this that is just absolutely bonkers. I mean, I personally got to play through a lot of the classic games like Uncharted and Bloodborne and all that stuff, and paying full price for all those games. There's a lot of great titles here, Fallout, Final Fantasy, and for me, I'm just excited that this is all going to be offered. It's great. It's going to be a huge deal for anyone that hasn't ever played these games. And also, I'm really stoked for the fact that Spider-Man's back. This is one of my favorite titles of the last year, but this time it's Miles Morales taking the charge.
Yay!
I was a maniac that 100% of the first game, and I probably will be doing the same for the second because the engine's great, the fighting feels really good, and again, PlayStation exclusive. This is again why I think PlayStation is a gaming console more than just a refurbished PC, which what the Xbox feels like to me these days.
Yeah.
For me, part of that collection though, Until Dawn. Until Dawn was a fantastic QTE, choose your own story. I had Hayden Panettiere in that one. But for me, the one that stands out is actually one that I didn't expect until they showed me, Hogwarts.
Yeah!
So for me,
Harry Potter.
I think I'm a little bit tired of Harry Potter, but not the world of Hogwarts. And really showing this, they're like saying, hey, look, you can decide how you're going to play in this world. And it feels like it's been waiting to like have a game created where I can be how I want to be in this fantastic world that has been set up.
Yeah.
And here, look at it. It's beautiful. And it felt very open. The way that the trailer went, the voiceover was like, how will you be remembered? I'm like, oh yeah, like
RPG status,
We've been
Finally
burned
felt
by
good.
Harry Potter games so many times.
Yep.
I think that the time has finally come.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
I'd hope so.
Of course, there is way more from the Sony showcase that we'll get into later in the show, including an interview with Eric Lempel, head of worldwide marketing and consumer experience at PlayStation, to tell us how the DualSense controller is going to be making Spider-Man Miles Morales even more impressive. But first, another of the major hardware manufacturers dropped a series of new releases this morning. Nintendo Direct held a Direct Mini announcing a bunch of new games from third-party developers, including not one, but two Monster Hunter games, Hades, Disgaea, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Rune Factory 5, all coming to the Switch among a whole bunch of others. Now, I have to say, Monster Hunter, I mean, it was more than one Monster Hunter. This is definitely the game of the show. I mean, Monster Hunter is such a beloved franchise, and what's going on with Monster Hunter Rise is really exciting to me. Like, it looks like it's they talked in the Monster Hunter Direct Mini that immediately followed the Nintendo Direct about the fact that it's going to focus on like very vertical gameplay. That's why it's called Rise. Like, it's literally about like using your sort of flying abilities and climbing, and I'm all for it. But here's the thing is I think that people are underestimating Monster Hunter Stories too as well, because that's got like some PlayStation, that's got some like Pokemon vibes to it, but Monster Hunter, it's gonna be good. So tell me I'm wrong. Monster Hunter won the show.
I don't know if it won the show, but it definitely was a big part of it. And it's Monster Hunters now that we have multiple titles, right?
True.
I mean, like, this game looks great, and I know there's a massive fan base behind this. And when you described this to me before the show today, it's kind of like Pokemon, but with bigger swords and cooler abilities. I was kind of sold, actually. So maybe it was the game of the show. I don't know. You tell me.
I just told you, it's Monster Hunter.
No. For me, and I'll touch on it real quick. Give me Fitness Box.
What?
I want Fitness Box
Fitness
and PGA
Box.
Tour.
Fitness
yeah.
Box?
Yes, because again, we're in quarantine. I'm stuck inside. This, like, you saw the success of Ring Fit. Now we've got another action fitness game. I love these for the Switch because it gets you up, gets you active, and it's something different, and different in a good way, right? Now I can play golf on the go, and that's what I've loved so much about my Switch. And so now being able to play these active sports games while still feeling mobile, it feels pretty good to me. So I like that one.
I will give one quick shout out. The fact that developer Moon Studios, who made Ori and Will of the Wisp, said in June that they would be very difficult to make a port for Switch, and here it is, running at the full 60 frames per second. That actually has me really excited. I loved the first one, which I played on the Switch, and I can't wait to do this one as well. All right, plenty more coming up, including Demon's Souls, God of War, Deathloop, and way more. But you know what time it is. Let's dive into today's solo queue. Look at that transition, so clean. Back in the 80s, some folks in the Nintendo warehouse noticed a striking resemblance between their favorite overall-wearing carpenter, and their landlord, Mario, so the iconic character was renamed. Do you all know what Mario's original name was in 1981's Donkey Kong? Was it Jumpman, Mr. Video, Luigi, or Mr. Miyamoto? Head to VENN.tv/play the guess, or just drop your answer right in the chat. Results after the break. Y'all better know this one.
Yeah. Good luck.
Well, Welcome back to the download. Before the break, we asked you what Mario's original name was in 1981's Donkey Kong. The options were A, Jumpman, B, Mr. Video, C, Luigi, or D, Mr. Miyamoto. Everyone at home, literally everyone at home, like 90-some-odd% of you think it's Jumpman, which
You're wrong.
is right.
Oh, you're right.
Obviously, yeah, Jumpman. Granted, considering his main objective was to jump over objects, I can't really knock the name too hard.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Definitely did a lot of jumping.
That's right.
Did
A
a
lot
lot
of
of
you were
jumping.
correct. I am Daniel Degon Gonzalez, and I'm joined here in the VENN studios by Jimmy Wong and Emma 5, plus the illustrious Aaron Ashley Simon in the wall
Ooh.
behind me. Aaron, you actually get ready for the show the same way that I do by doing some serious work to your hair. Yeah. look at
Maintenance.
that.
Oh, nice.
Yes. You know, it's a lot of maintenance in the world of broadcasting, you know. Looking like this every day. I didn't wake up like this. You get to take some maintenance work.
I know. I feel like I did the same amount of work, and I do not have the same result as you.
Degon's hair just gets taller every day.
Unlucky.
We're all still feeling pretty amped about the Sony showcase yesterday. So let's get into some PlayStation-themed downloadable content.
PS5.
Let's kick things off with the biggest announcement we have not talked about yet. Right at the end of the show, we got a very brief taste of the sequel to 2018's excellent God of War reimagining. Along with the Omega symbol, we've come to know for Kratos, the teaser of Ragnarok is coming. Aaron, are you ready for Dad Simulator 2.0?
Yeah, I'm ready for this. But the one thing I like about this news is also the fact that they're gonna have the original God of War on the PlayStation Plus collection.
Yes.
So it allows for people to,
Nice.
if they haven't been caught up to this popular series, they can still go back and play, and then it'll make it a little more of an interesting experience. I mean, because listen, we have all the time. We're stuck inside pretty much most of the time anyway. So it's good that they're bringing it back for people to try out.
Yeah, boy. It's just one of those things, this game series, that it's cool to see where it started in terms of just a hack and slash to now
Yeah.
the focus
Yeah.
on story, the focus on lore, and I love that this is just a tease. So now everyone can start salivating for that first trailer that comes out that gives you a little bit of an insight there.
Vikings are the new dark and gritty.
Santa Monica Studios, too, just killing it.
Yes.
And they're, again,
Yeah.
PlayStation.
All right. Before Dark Souls exploded in popularity and became shorthand for "this game is hard," there was Demon Souls. The criminally underappreciated RPG became a cult classic. But by the time the Soulsborne genre was even coined as a term, it was largely out of mind for most gamers. But now, it's getting a ground-up remaster.
Ooh.
Emma, are you excited to get your hands on the new, old Souls game?
You know me, I love a good remake.
Nice.
I actually am legitimately really excited about this. I remember they showed a little bit of this at the earlier PlayStation event that happened a few months ago. And then to see the trailer for this and really get a sense of what the gameplay was gonna be like I saw it and I went, man, this looks like it's a Souls game, but I feel like I could do it and I won't just die all the time. Also, it
Oh,
looks like you
really?
can block.
I feel like I can't
is-
do it. I've played enough Souls games and Bloodbornes to know that I am trash at this game, but these are one of the most exciting titles to watch at Awesome Games Done
Yes.
Quick. They're some of the best speedruns you'll ever see, and just in general, like the memes and all the things that come from this genre of games makes them really special in the gaming world.
Yeah, really fun. All right, look, those other games are exciting, but did anyone actually expect the "what are you buying" guy to make a return? That line alone is why this is my game of the show, outside of Final Fantasy. But really, Resident Evil Village, AKA Resident Evil 8. See what they did with the logo there?
So smart.
Yeah.
I love
It's
it.
so smart. I love it. It's got a brand new trailer showing off more of the vibe that we're going to get from the upcoming horror game. Now, Jimmy, you're not so much into horror games, are you?
I will say that the script said, "Jimmy, you're a baby." When it comes to playing horror games. I was really hoping you would call me a baby because I think that's really funny. I will probably play this because I loved Resident Evil on, I don't know if you all remember, but you could play it on the Wii and it had motion controls for the first time.
Oh my
So
God.
you could actually aim, and
Dude.
you know, the fact that it has the "what are you buying" guy in it makes me really excited. So I will probably play it.
Okay.
Maybe we'll stream it. Digon, you now scream together.
Yeah, maybe. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I'm a fan of Resident Evil overall, considering it was so instrumental in terms of setting the precedent for modern day survival horror video games. And also on top of it too, this one has apparently more combat and exploration, which I like. And another thing is with the new PS5, there is going to be haptic feedback. And then we're also seeing how 3D audio is now becoming a major component that's being focused on for the future consoles and future games. So that's just going to only add more to it. So probably there's gonna be a lot more screaming from Jimmy and Digon moving forward.
Yeah.
In 3D.
I know you guys can't see it, but my hands are sweaty just thinking about this game. I don't like these scary games. But a game that I do like is Deathloop, and it may have gotten it delayed into next year, but that wasn't gonna stop Arcane from giving us a taste of that sweet, sweet murder sim gameplay.
Yeah.
The developer gave us an idea to how the shooter will play, including figuring out ways to murder its many targets in one single swoop. Aaron, how are you vibing with the look of Deathloop in action?
I'm liking the trailer. It's very unique. And I mean, I'm a big FPSer, and the fact that it's like a combo of like the likes of Hitman, plus having these travel bending reality abilities to it, I think I'm really interested. But also for me, it's not just about shooting. It's also about like the storyline. And we got a little bit of a tidbit of it. So I'm curious to see like what that mission storyline will be for this specifically.
Yeah. It's got like We Happy Few meets BioShock vibes too, so I'm all for it. All right, well, let's get back to Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War.
Call of Duty Cold War.
Blah, 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 blah. We've been talking about for a few weeks now, and we will continue to talk about blah, 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 blah. But yesterday, we got our first look at the single-player campaign gameplay of blah, 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 blah. As you can see on the screen, it was fast, frantic. It involved a lot of explosions. It involved like a sweet RC car blowing up a plane. And you know, as any good Call of Duty game, it should have lots of blowy explosion things happening. So Digon, did this first look at the campaign do anything for you?
Oh, absolutely. I look at that guy and he like is like, all right, snipe this guy, end of the mission. And like this thing, and then you hit the person, I'm like, that guy messed up, right? Like this shouldn't happen, right? I can't wait to play and then just hit it, and then we go home after like the first minute of the scene, right? But no. I'm sure it's like, oh no, you have to do this. They accidentally missed. It does seem interesting. I can't wait to see. Anytime you get to see Woods and Mason as names in the game, I get super excited because of storytelling. We've already seen President in there, Robert Redford lookalike in there. Get me this game, please. I'm waiting for it.
Also, I have to say, once again, we haven't really been talking so much about the PlayStation controller, going back to haptic feedback as well, and how that is going to be implemented into this with the different reactions to the guns and the feeling in the controller when it comes to different guns you use and different moments that happen, just like there. Like, you go and kill somebody, goes, ah, and then you feel in the controller, right? So I'm actually excited for the campaign mode with, I'm really excited for the campaign mode when it comes especially to the haptic feedback. And also, let's not forget, the alpha weekend is coming.
Oh, yes.
Black Ops Cold War multiplayer as well, so it's a good 1-2 punch that's coming from this.
FNAF is back. Yes, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach was briefly teased during the show.
I just got FNAF.
Keeping in the theme of the previous games in the series, Security Breach definitely features some jump scares, which are perpetrated by animatronic animals, but that's about all we know right now. Jimmy, one more horror game. How you feeling about it, you baby?
I'm feeling like a baby. Oh, this is scary. Five Nights at Freddy's, this game, like it or not, has a massive cultural impact.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at YouTubers like Markiplier and so many other people that have played these games to massive appeal. And I think just for that alone, it should be notable, and it should be something that we follow. Because to me, I still don't fully understand and grasp why people love these games so much. But it's a very real thing, and I think it's really neat to see a horror game take such a massive cultural, like, sort of everyone knows about it.
Yes.
And typically, right, you talk to someone about Silent Hill, they're like, oh, that movie? And you're like, oh, no. But Five Nights at Freddy's, everyone knows about it.
Yeah, as you say, Jimmy, you can't undervalue the cultural significance of Five Nights at Freddy's and just the imagery of it. It immediately, and I like horror games, but it immediately, like, makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the haptics and the 3D sound of the Five Nights at Freddy's of the futures.
Degon, another game for us to play.
Too scary, too scary.
All right, guys. All right, it's time to get real. No horrors, no scary moments. All right. Now that we know all the big titles for the next gen console, it's time for you three to actually draft the perfect game system. So, as the 100% totally official commissioner of the Download's first ever console fantasy draft.
Just because you're from New York,
Hey,
Mr. Boo.
I'm more of an Adam Silver, not a Roger Goodell, okay?
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's make your picks, team.
music?
And the number one pick goes to the person with the most IMDb credits.
What?
Mr. Jimmy!
Yes.
What
Get on
kind
it.
of
Yes.
credentials is this?
I was afraid you were going to be like, Ron Jeremy. But no, it's me with the most IMDb credits. Now, with the first pick in the 2020 console draft, Team Jimmy Wong selects God of War 2. This game is highly anticipated. Santa Monica Studio is one of the best video game studios in the world. I don't even care if we don't see anything about it. You know, this game is going to be great. We know that for a fact. And boy, am I excited.
Boy, I see what you did there.
Apparently, I get the second pick, which must mean I have the second most IMDb credits of anybody at the table. In the 2020 console draft, Team Emma selects Final Fantasy 16.
Safe pick.
You know, gotta stay on brand here. Again, this is really bringing Final Fantasy back to its roots. We know for sure that there's going to be more of a focus on a bit of a linear story as opposed to Final Fantasy 15, which felt a little like you just kind of got lost in an open world and were driving around aimlessly in a car. Again, Final Fantasy 14 has really been killing the game as far as new Final Fantasy content goes, as opposed to, you know, reimagining old content. So Final Fantasy 16 is my first pick for the 2020 console draft.
It looks so pretty.
All right,
pretty.
and the third pick, because I have the least amount, actually 0 credits on IMDb.
But you got the biggest heart, Degon.
Team Degon selects, to surprise everybody, Deathloop! Yeah, that's
What a
right. You guys
twist.
went for the big console names. I'm going with the Bethesda kind of side-edge shooter right here because of how creative it's being, and it's a single-player first-person shooter with time-bending mechanics in there. I love the fact that you've got
Wow.
all the characters now are being built up as their own personalities. Plus, the main character isn't without fault. He's also being hunted, as they showed at the very end
Hey,
of the
you're just
trailer. So
gonna-
there's actual danger. It's not like, hey, I can get hit 50 times and not die. So
You're just gonna leave like codlops out to dry
Miles
like that?
Morales, just like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's an unproven.
Yeah.
It's an unproven game. Who knows?
the value will be there. I promise.
Ooh, taking
Aaron,
a
what do
big
you
risk.
Well, wow. I mean, the first round is over and Spider-Man's still on the board, but we'll leave that for another day. I question some of you guys. But Scott, tell us what you think of that round. The Download Squad will finish drafting for the fantasy consoles later on in the show, so stick around and stay tuned for that.
All right, it is time for the download to take a break, but when we return, Matt, Mr. Mustache X, will be joining us to break down the esports news of the week, including the League of Legends World Championship group draw. Don't miss it.
Ooh, exciting.
Welcome back to the download. You might notice that there is a face in the wall, which means it's time for esports. We have Aaron, Ashley, Simon here as well. Matt might be able to be here, but it's time to talk esports. This is the Outplay. All right, as is tradition, after Call of Duty League Finals, every team on the planet is going through a roster swap. It has been chaos for the last 2 weeks, but things are starting to settle down. What do you think are the winners of this roster shakeup, Aaron?
Well, it was really interesting to see FaZe let go of Prisa. That was definitely a noteworthy change, which means that this is a big pickup for the Minnesota Rockers. And it's also been super impressive just to see not only them compete, but how they've been building their fan base and community from scratch. They were a team that does not have a legacy. They were not tied to a previous team, so they've had to start from scratch. And of course, Gary Vaynerchuk is involved with this team. So I'm curious to see how they do for the next season.
For me, it's got to be Dashy going to Chicago. I find that to be really interesting. He's a player who's a flex. He can play the AR or the submachine gun at a really high level. You get him back with Scump and Formal, former teammates. I think they could be really strong. I just think it depends on which Dashy you get. During this season, he had to be benched by Optic Gaming LA. He didn't really play that well. Didn't really jive with Modern Warfare. But he was a beast in the Black Ops game. So I'm excited to see Dashy again.
Yeah, I think we got to return back to Atlanta, not for who they jettisoned, but who they're bringing in. They're bringing in our cities, and now it's starting to put together what I think is one of the most dominant teams in Call of Duty history, which was the E-United team before franchising. So now you've got our cities, you got Simp, you got Abizi. So, like, I think that core there, since we're going to 4v4, is someone solid, but that does leave one player out in the cold, doesn't it, Matt?
Well, right. I mean, we still don't know where Clayster goes. He's the odd man out from the winning team of the Dallas Empire. You kind of look around the league and like there's some spots where they have open rosters where there'd be like Toronto. You can look at Optic Gaming LA, but they have Slasher. Seattle, I think they've kind of come around with a team, but they have Octane, so you wouldn't kind of replace Octane as one of the best ARs in the world. New York, probably an option as well for Clay. It'll be interesting to see wherever he goes, who puts around him and what kind of pieces they can get.
All right, well, speaking of COD, on Monday, Activision Blizzard announced that its esports league will be played on PC for the 2021 season. However, it will still be played with controllers rather than keyboard and mouse. Aaron, you're up again. Why is this a good thing for Call of Duty esports?
Well, this is a good thing because, one, the pacing of the game was one of the, issues that people had in terms of this season. And that goes back to what you mentioned with the 4v4 and why they are going back to that format that they had in the previous season. And with this, right, if you don't know, so the PlayStation for PS4, it is 45 to 60 a frame per second, while the PC will be up to 240 frames per second. So that will make the pace of the matches feel quicker, which will help to hopefully bring more people paying attention into it.
Yeah, and I think this is crazy for a feel. As a player, to go from 60 frames per second to 240 frames per second, what it looks like for players that don't really notice it, everything feels smoother. No longer does it feel a little choppy when you turn. You might not even recognize it feels choppy, but all of a sudden your movement feels so much smoother, and that might actually affect some of the players. But for me, if you're still using controller, like, what is it like? Are we really changing the rules of the game? Like, the change for 4v4 is big, right?
Yeah, you can't get rid of the controller. It's Call of Duty. I mean, it's been an esport in its way that it is now on console for like almost 10 years. Like, there was a Call of Duty like pro mod scene like back in the day, but that is long gone and past. That was like Call of Duty 4. I think you have to keep the controllers. I think it's actually interesting now that it opens up to multiple different types of controllers. So if you are more comfortable with an Xbox controller, you can use that. If you're more comfortable with PlayStation, you can use that one, next gen or old. So I think it opens up a lot of different options.
And I think that because we're seeing, one, so many different titles that are having crossplay, and also two, that we're seeing even other esports leagues, and even though it's traditional sports based, they have PC, but having multiple different controllers. So I think it's going to overall help the competition. And certain titles have always been controller, like Halo competition and Call of Duty. So we got to keep the lights.
Hey, time's up, Kamish. Time's up, Kamish. All right, I'm in charge now, which means it's time to talk League of Legends. Riot Games held its yearly draw show on Monday morning, giving us our first look at what the group stages will be for the biggest esports tournament in the world, in my opinion. Matt, let's start with you. Based on these groups, does North America actually have a chance at making it a run at this thing in 2020?
Well, you would have said like FlyQuest, right, for how consistent they've been all season. They were in the finals of the summer and the spring split, but their group looks to be very difficult. So I think you have to kind of look at TSM, right? TSM is the winner of the summer split. They pick up double lift about halfway through the season. They seem like they could be the hot team from North America going into Worlds.
Aaron, your thoughts on this group stage draw?
Yeah, I mean, look, last time you and I discussed about Faker not making it, and what does that mean for Worlds? And honestly, at this point, I think Worlds is going to be okay. And the team to keep an eye out for from Korea is actually Damwon Gaming, and they are the top team. They have a super mid laner with Showmaker, and we actually previously discussed this off the show, is that Worlds is prime right now to be a mid-lane focused tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't even talked LEC. Caps, one of the greatest mid laners of all time from Europe, participating in this tournament with G2, then the other Koreans that are in this tournament, Chovy and BDD, they have been huge talents in their career as well, so I don't think there's going to be a lack of mid lane focus. But I did want to go back to that FlyQuest point. Speaking of mid laners, Power of Evil, in his career, specifically going back to Misfits against SKT, I think Power of Evil's secret skill is neutralizing other mid laners. He plays with so much pressure that those mid laners aren't able to show off their full capabilities. And so with Knight for top esports, TES, probably the #1 team coming into this tournament after finishing #1 in the LPL, the Chinese region, he's probably the most hyped player. He might actually get neutralized by a little bit of Power of Evil. That's been his thing throughout, so maybe a little bit of hope there from FlyQuest if TSM isn't able to come through. All right, I could talk mid laners all day, but that's all the time we got for the Outplay. Aaron, Matt, thank you so much for making time to make some plays with me.
It is time for the
anytime.
download to take a break, but when we return, we'll be talking to Eric Lempel, head of worldwide marketing and consumer experience at PlayStation. Worried about the digital version of the PS5? What he says might surprise you.
Ew.
Surprise!
Surprise! It's a PlayStation.
All right, welcome back to the download. It's time to get in the know.
The Batman has resumed production, Variety reported this morning. The Robert Pattinson superhero movie halted production after the star tested positive for COVID-19 2 weeks ago. Now, despite the delay, the release of The Batman is still slated for October 2021.
Can't wait.
To discuss more about the future of the PlayStation 5, our intrepid co-host Patrick Shanley sat down with Eric Lempel, SVP and head of global marketing for PlayStation. Take a look.
There was a lot shown yesterday, a lot of games, a lot of surprises, and also a couple reveals about the PlayStation 5 itself. If you're unaware, Eric, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I am wondering how that has affected a lot of the rollout for this information and this event in particular.
Sure. Well, it's been a really interesting year for all of us, Patrick. And as we go into a console launch year, which is something we don't do that often, we intend for these to be big events. You know, if the world was in the normal state, we would have had a lot of people in some part of the world collective together in some auditorium talking about all of these great things, but we unfortunately can't do that. So we quickly pivoted earlier this year to these online shows. We did one back in June. This was the second one, and this will be the last big show before the launch of PlayStation 5. So it's a different approach, but from what we can tell, the messages are getting through and everybody's still really excited. So we're really happy with the reception we've had thus far to the two shows, and we've talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, there is no denying the excitement. I mean, Twitter was ablaze all of yesterday talking about this showcase. You mentioned how this would normally be done in an auditorium and we'd be in person. You've also mentioned in the past when you spoke to gamesindustry.biz that in a normal year we'd have hands-on. You'd be at demos. So I'm wondering, is that still a plan? Are we going to be able to get our hands on this before launch? When can we see that?
You know, it really depends on the part of the world that you're in. And naturally, we're going to follow all the rules and regulations. And of course, we want to keep people safe. So if it was a normal year, we would have one of these big events in an auditorium or an arena. And afterwards, we would offer a lot of hands-on for everybody there, as well as have hands-on events around the world tied to other gaming events or non-gaming events. It doesn't look like that's going to happen this year. You know, there may be a couple of opportunities here and there in parts of the world, but not what we normally would do.
Aside from the big games, of which there were quite a few shown off, the big news was we finally got pricing for the two different offerings of the PlayStation 5. One question that has arisen from a few people is, what's the difference between these two offerings? We have one that's all digital and one that has a disc slot, but I'm wondering if you can go into what sets these two versions of the PlayStation 5 apart from each other.
Certainly, and it's really easy. One version has a disk drive and one version doesn't. When we talk about the power of the unit, the GPU, the CPU, SSD, everything else is the exact same thing in each one of these units. So it really depends on what kind of consumer you are, but you can rest assured if you buy either of those units, you are getting the best PlayStation 5 experience. There's no difference between the units aside from that disk drive.
Let's also talk about the PS Plus collection, because this is something that a lot of people were excited about, and it gives people a chance who may have missed out on PlayStation 4 classics to play them on the PlayStation 5. How does this work, and is it only available to PlayStation 5 members? If I have a PS4 and I missed out on these games, do I need a PS5 in order to get this collection?
Well, this is an incredible new benefit for PlayStation Plus members. So first off, you will need a PlayStation 5 to access the collection, but this is not a separate service. If you have PlayStation Plus today, and we have a large number of people around the world that do, and you get a PlayStation 5, you're getting the PlayStation Plus collection. So day one, you're getting access to every single game you saw in that part of the show that talked about the collection. And as you noted, this is not just a random selection of games. We were very careful to curate generation-defining games. So if you were a PlayStation 4 owner, there's probably a few of those games that you missed out on. I doubt everybody owns every single one of those games. But if you're a new PlayStation 5 owner and you didn't have a PlayStation 4, you've got hundreds of hours of entertainment with truly some of the best games we ever made.
This lends itself a little bit to things you've said in the past. You said that generations matter when you spoke about a PlayStation 5 and the marketing for it. We've seen a bit of new marketing for PlayStation in general built around the PlayStation 5 launch. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what generations matter means? And, some of the other ones is play has no limits was another slogan that you guys used. How did you arrive at those? What do those mean specifically for the future of PlayStation?
Sure. Well, let me talk about generations. So when we say generations matter, it's not a tagline. That's an internal policy. That's part of our brand tenets. We believe that when we shift generations, we really have to do something innovative. As a PlayStation consumer, the expectations are high. You're expecting the best interactive entertainment experience. And when we deliver a new generation, we want everybody to feel really happy with that new console purchase. So we're not going to release a console unless it really meets those objectives. It has to do something new. It has to do something special. It has to really build upon the history that we have at PlayStation and deliver new and innovative features. And truly, I've been with the company a long time. Nothing does that better than PlayStation 5. Right off the bat, it's a lot more powerful than previous generation consoles, but it has all these unique features, things like ray tracing, which give the developers the incredible ability to create just beautiful worlds. Then we've got our 3D audio, which really immerses you in the game. We've got the SSD, which truly changes the game. I mean, everybody who plays games knows you die in a game or you have to go to another part of the map. You're going to spend a lot of time. You're going to travel. You're going to watch some little, probably interstitial animation.
I die a lot, Eric, so that means something to me.
Yeah, so there you go. So the good news for you, Patrick, is that now when you die, you're back nearly instantly and you're ready to go again. This is something, you don't realize how good it is until you experience it. And then really the last part of this, which really rounds out the PlayStation 5 quite nicely, is the DualSense controller. And many of our fans know we've stuck with the DualShock controller from PlayStation 1 through 4, and many were expecting, okay, here comes the DualShock 5. But the whole thing has changed. This is a massive evolution on the way you interact with our games, and that's why we've got a new name, and that's the DualSense. I mean, the DualSense has everything you can expect from previous controllers, but a ton more. I mean, it's got haptic feedback. It's got adaptive dynamic triggers. It's got a great speaker on the controller and a microphone. This brings you closer to the game in a whole new way. So when we say a new generation, we're basically saying expect a whole bunch of new experiences. You'll be surprised and delighted by what you feel. We are for the gamers. We're always out there to innovate, surprise, and delight, and deliver new worlds to them, and we'll always continue to do that. We won't stop, and Play Has No Limits really summarizes that ambition we have as a company.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate your time, all your insight. The only thing left is for me personally to get my hands on a PlayStation 5, so please send me one.
Well, November 12th, Patrick, get ready.
I'm counting down the days. Thanks so much, Eric. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Patrick.
So there you have it, internet doubters. The only difference between the PlayStation with the disk drive and without the disk drive is the disk drive.
The disk drive.
Yeah. How about Patrick with that half-hearted attempt to try and get a free one, right?
I know.
They should just, hey, me.
Hey, I'll take a PlayStation.
Can't wait to get my hands on it,
Hit me up. Email me, tweet me.
The disk drive, but also I love the way that they elaborated on generations matter
Yeah.
to me.
Yes.
Because I feel a part of that
Yeah.
as a PS2 owner, because I didn't start in PS1, I started in PS2, but then bought everyone since then.
Totally.
It does feel like there's always a relationship that is cultivated every time a new console comes out or games come out. It always feels like, hey, what have we done in the past? What did they like? How do we iterate on top of it?
And again, with that PlayStation collection that we've been talking about, there is this sort of feeling of they want to welcome people who might be new to the PlayStation with the PS5 into sort of the PlayStation family, and also allow people that missed some of the big PlayStation 4 titles to be able to play them.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool. All right, it is time for the download to take a break, but when we return, we'll finish drafting our ideal console launches.
Hey.
Who will pick Spider-Man Miles Morales? Find out when we return.
Looks like he's dancing right there.
Yeah, baby.
Wiggling.
Well, see. Welcome back to the download. Earlier in the show, the three of us made our first round picks in the inaugural Download Console Fantasy Draft. Here's a recap of our first round. Emma and Degon should just go home because I got God of War 2. But now we're gonna make our remaining 3 picks each in lightning speed. Degon, because it's a snake draft, you are officially on the clock.
Well, because it is a snake draft, I knew I would get fantastic value by waiting on it. It's the pick of the draft here. Give me the AAA Spider-Man Miles Morales. That game was sick. It's the best pick. It's
Sticking
over.
with AAAs and tried and true franchises, my next pick is going to be Resident Evil 8, aka Resident Evil Village. Bring on the creepy.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna need to go for the game that everyone's gonna be playing. It's Demon Souls. It's much better than the rest of them. And speaking of games that a lot of people are gonna be playing and have cultural impact, who did not take Five Nights at Freddy's? Because this is gonna be massive.
Me, I'm a scaredy cat.
All right, now it's back to me, and I am going to pick Halo. That's right, Xbox can't manage to have it as a launch title, but my console will.
Wait, you can do that?
That's pretty good. But another story-based one that we got to see from Ubisoft earlier, Watch Dogs Legion. You get to pick which hero you want to be, and you can swap between back and forth. And then the fourth one from Xbox. This one looked beautiful, super excited for it. Everwild. It has a little bit of hype around it, still a little bit veiled behind it, but I'm very excited to see
I can't
how that
believe
does.
I am saying this, but I have got to go ahead and take Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I'm going to be crushing it with the esports game right out the bat, y'all.
Gesundheit. And my final last pick is Hogwarts Legacy. Let's hope it's a little more inclusive than its author.
You're a wizard, Jimmy!
Yep. Well, with Degon's last pick, we have concluded the first ever download fantasy console draft. Chat, take a look and let us know who the big winner was. I mean, I think I won because I honestly got the steal with Complops. I can't believe that you did not take that, Degon.
Yeah.
Fourth pick.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
It was
I know.
risky. It was a risky pick here, and I wanted to make sure we got the indie folk right there.
Okay.
Everwild's gonna be a good one. You gotta trust me, because you see that first 3 right there.
I trust
They're
you.
gonna
but,
trust
like,
me with Everwild.
I got the franchises on my side. I got the proven success.
I got gods, I got demons, I got animatronic animals, and I got wizards.
Excuse me, but
End of story.
No, you do. But the question is, Jimmy, do you have battle chocobos? Because I got that in Final Fantasy 16. Like, we were clearly seeing that. I also got the monster hunters with the good hair.
Ooh.
That's what's
nice.
that's what's up.
Nice.
That's what's up. There it is.
Hey.
Final Fantasy 16, Resident Evil Village, Halo Infinite, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. You got everything here. You got some tried and true shooters. You got a shooter that's more in the sci-fi realm. And Final Fantasy, what? Let's go.
All right, one more time. Take a look at the winning list right here. Deathloop right there. Spider-Man, Watch Dogs, and Everwild. That's the play. Buy my console.
That is it for the download. We will see you tomorrow. Be sure to let us know who you think won our big draft.
Bring that draft. Bring the best draft.